Wow. Hold on. We got an audio feedback. Let me figure out where it's at. Oh, I see what happened.
It is
Still
loud.
good back here.
No, I got rid of it. Give me just a second. Let's see if that did it. Yep, we had an audio feedback. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Build or Buy. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been interesting. It's been a long, rough month, so it's nice to have some normalcy back. I appreciate those of you that are online. Thank you for joining us. It's a little rough today because after not setting up for a month, I've had everything set up and left up. And now having to set up again, it's a few things different. So we're back up and running. We're going to start today with Joe. He's going to talk to us about Macrium Reflect. I've got some stuff about networking I want to talk to you about based on some questions that were asked. And I want to mention a little bit about Skype, just a brief mention of it. I'll give you some more details about it next week. So, Joe, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. A week and a half ago, I decided to make some changes to my laptop here. And I was going to go into the registry and diddle around. And you know how dangerous that is. One slight slip and you can screw everything up. So I thought what I would do would be to clone my laptop one more time, make it current the way I had it then and the way it is now. So I made my backup of it. I didn't clone it. I imaged it because I rarely clone anymore. Cloning every couple of months, but now it's primarily imaging. And so I imaged my hard drive, and I'd get ready to mess up my registry. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm not sure I did that one critical thing that you got to do in Reflect to make sure that your clone or that your image is good. So I'm going to bring up my image, my Reflect here, and I'm sure you guys are smart and you've already done this before, but when you get ready to you image your drive, I'm going to image this drive, say. You got to go down toward the bottom here and hit Advanced. And whether or not you want Intelligent, which is what I use, or point for point, but more importantly, up here is Auto Verify the image. If you don't have that clicked and checked off down here, you don't know if your image is good or not. So I didn't know if I had that clicked. So when I got to this point, I found out it wasn't clicked. So I clicked it and imaged it again. So I made 2 images in a row, the same thing. And then after I messed around with my registry, tried to do some things I shouldn't have been doing anyway, I wouldn't boot up anymore. It was just totally dead. So I half expected that, so I got my first image out and tried to restore my drive using that, and it would go so far and then it'd just die on me. So I wasn't too worried. I had another image. So I closed that out, put the second image up there, and I imaged that. I brought it back and put it on this drive. Everything worked perfectly. So I gathered what happened was my image got screwed up on the first one, and since I didn't verify it, I didn't know that. But the second one I verified, and I knew it was good, so I had no worries about getting it back up to running the way I had it, which is what I have now. So, yes, sir.
Hold on.
Is it verifying the image you're trying to restore, that it's good?
Yeah, it's taking an image of my machine, and then it goes back and verifies that what it took is exactly what's on my machine.
So there's already it's verifying the image that you just did.
Yes.
Not the previous one.
No, the one I just did.
Okay.
And then it says, yeah, it's all good. And it takes a little bit longer, but it's definitely worth the effort. David, wait.
Where's the spot for the camera?
You stand still. That's where the spot will be.
All right. So did you explain how you verify your disk image?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
But I will do it again for your sake.
Please do.
You see where I'm at in Reflect? Let me back up here. Okay. here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to verify this image, but before I do, go down to Advanced Options and make sure I've selected the type of image I want, and then go over here to Auto Verify Image, and it verifies the image if you have this box checked. If you don't have this box checked, you don't know what you're going to get. So if any of you guys have been doing images and don't have that box checked, I would make another image of your machine just to be on the safe side, and make sure you check that. Yes, sir.
A thing that I have been surprised to find, I've been doing a lot of images this last week, and generally speaking, my image is bigger than my source, which surprised me because I thought when you checked the nominal compression there, what you really were getting was a single file that contains everything, so there are no gaps between the files as there are on the disk. But for some reason, two that I can remember, and I think I've only done 3 different disks, the result is just slightly larger, you know, like 868 megabytes, or no, I guess it's gigabytes of stuff, and it's 869 when it's imaged. So, you know, it went up in the 3rd digits, 1%. But I'm just surprised it went up instead of down. That's all, just a comment.
Yeah, well, I'm really surprised on that because I think when it does an image, there's 2 main files that it doesn't image. You know, if you look on your C drive, you've got a couple of...
That's good to know. I've always wondered about the scratch. Where do you delete a file? Where does it go? Trash can or something like that.
Well,
anyway.
no, trash can never does, but
Yeah,
you've got files here called hyperfile.
And the memory swap?
Yes, and a swap drive. Those 2 files, hyperfile and swap files. Now on mine, this one's only 16 gig, but the hyperfile is 3.19 gig.
Well,
And those are not copied over.
yeah.
And the reason for that is, of course, the first time you turn your machine on, those files are generated automatically.
But do you think you do get your trash can backed up?
You know, I never noticed that. I don't know.
Well, you know, I go through and delete gigabytes of stuff, and so I need to clean the trash can out before I do the backup, just because I want to make sure that doesn't happen. But I guess I've never looked to see if it's there. I don't store very often. I back up a lot more often.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll check it out. Seriously, I'll check it out next time I do that because I don't know. I just assumed that if it was in a trash can, it wouldn't bring it over. If it doesn't bring over hyperfile and doesn't bring over swap files, why would it bring over the trash? Except the trash can's restorable, you know. If you put something in the trash can and you later say, oh man, I screwed up, I shouldn't have done that, you can take that out. So
well, that is an argument for including it in the image because it could have some use. Yeah. So it may be that it is.
That's true.
And it could be big. So, you know, if you need to check it out to see if you're going to do that. Another thing that I've been into, which I guess that probably not many people can relate to, the 20% space that we leave on an NTFS hard drive. I have some network attached storage devices, and I just asked them that question that, you know, on my hard drives, I have to leave 20% vacant. Do I have to leave 20% vacant on the stuff that's in your box? And they haven't answered me yet. They've had 30 or 40 hours, I guess, but they haven't yet. I'm hoping the answer is no. All that we tell you that's there, you can use it all. Because currently I've got 6 disks in there. One of them is used for redundancy, so I'm only getting the use of 5. And if I got like 20% available, that's 1 more disk. So I put in 6 and only get 4. So that makes me think probably the answer is no, the Unix version that we use inside our box does not require you to unuse any space. That's what I'm hoping the answer is.
I'm just thinking. I don't use Linux anymore, and I don't remember much about it. But
the last time we tried to use Linux here, we were using it on a 4K laptop, and the screen just wow,
Well-
couldn't work with it, couldn't function.
Yeah, well, this is a box, you know, that you buy, and so it has some operating system in it,
Yeah.
and it happens to be Unix. This is not anything that I would put on my computer. I would like to. I'd like to get away from Microsoft, but it doesn't look like that's ever going to happen.
I don't know, they're driving me that way right now.
Some of the one of the images that I took, I just finished this morning, ran 11 hours, and one that I ran a couple of days ago took 24. So sometimes this can be a slow process, but if you just got one disk and it's a terabyte, it won't be that long.
Well, Windows is really messing up my machines at home.
Yes.
I have, we'll deviate from the sharing a minute, this here, but I have my network at home all set up so that I've got three computers in my office and one computer by my television set, which is my home theater PC. And all of them could look at all of them, and I could transfer files back and forth, read movies and songs and stuff like that, with no problem. Then along comes about a month and a half, 2 months ago, Microsoft update, and all of a sudden now I can't see half of my computers.
It's because they reset the network.
Yeah, if you looked at, well, no, I tried that. If you look at my network here, I got my Xfinity router coming in. Going into that, I got my Netgear WNDR 4000 router. This is my main computer and my laptop are hardwired to this thing. I have another computer across the room it's wirelessly connected. And then in the family room, I got a cable. This cable here is like 90-some feet long because I'm in a front office. It's 12 feet to my ceiling, all the way across the house and back, and then 12 feet from that ceiling down to the thing. So I had them put in Cat 6 cable here.
Smart.
And then I got plugged in directly the TV set, and that's about it. Now I also got plugged in directly my home theater PC down here, but my output of my home theater PC goes into my one control on the thing. So that's neither here nor there. So the thing I could do is should be able to, with this computer here, look at all of these hard drives.
Should.
Now from this computer, I can see the third computer here down here, the wireless one. I cannot see the one sitting right next to it.
That's very strange.
And then, but from this computer laptop, I can see my main computer and I can push stuff over to it, but I can't from this end pull stuff from it or push it over.
Well, we were there for years that my computer could push and pull to my wife's computer, but she couldn't. She could see the stuff in my computer, but she couldn't move it. And so I had to do everything from mine. So now you've plopped into that spot.
That's a permissions thing, though, I think.
No, they were set up the same.
But
Now, I hear each time I come here all the problems people are having with Windows 10, and I just sit there very smugly and smile and say, yeah, Windows 7 isn't doing that. So I just hope that they civilize that sucker before I have to move to it. But I'm glad I'm not going through any of those growing pains. And it's been more than a year now. You know, you'd think that they'd quit messing you up with their updates.
But the funny part is with my home theater PC in the family room, I can see all four of the other stuff, and I can move files back and forth
Yeah.
that I can't do individually on the main computer. And this is just a little dink. Well, you've had it in here before, and you've seen it's a little dinky thing.
Do you have a mouse on that home theater
Do I have
computer?
a mouse on it?
Yeah, I mean, can you actually use it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and you use the TV as a monitor?
Yes, when I do it, I
Yeah.
use the TV as a monitor. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, seeing that TV, it's a big monitor. Bigger than I need. Don't even need my glasses when I watch that monitor. But anyway, like I say, Microsoft is driving me toward another operating system.
I agree.
It will not be Mac.
Some flavor of a PC. It'll be nice if Linux had more support for more of our toys, but until we get there. It's getting better, but it's still not quite there.
You know, I have the same complaint with Linux as I have with the with Kodi on my home theater PC, it's constantly changing. And it's all voluntarily changed, all voluntarily supported by people who just have fun with it. You might have a server there that gives you the best movies in town today, and then the guy decides not to do it anymore, and it's just gone. And so all your hard work setting it up is wasted. And so I'm using Kodi less and less, and using my own movies downloaded more and more.
And speaking of Linux, there was an article we had up. I never did talk about it. It's been over a month now. It's up on Build or Buy. But there was a link about whoever handles or was handling Linux let a whole bunch of people go. So the commercial version of Linux, they were saying, was going to be a problem. So anyway, back over to networking. You got any more on networking you're going to share with us, Joe?
No, any other questions about it? Because that's just it's just as a reminder that since this is the first Wednesday, we decided to talk about networking and cloning and so on and so forth.
Cloning, imaging, and backup.
Yeah,
do it, everybody.
Then I thought I would bring that up to make sure that if you use either this one or any other cloning and backup imaging software, make sure you're verifying it as you go along, or you could be in for a very big surprise if you don't.
Yeah, for example, anybody here use Skype? Okay, I was trying to use Skype with a new device called the Elgato Camlink. The Elgato Camlink. Elgato is the brand, Camlink is the product. I was going to try it on 3 different computers, the ones that we spec out, from the low-end APU to the middle FX to the higher-end Ryzen. I started on a low-end machine, and good thing I had a clone, because it messed up the GUID on a GPT disk. In other words, when you reboot, when Windows goes south, and when Windows comes back, it says, okay, tell me where the disk is. That's what I had. The device said it was going to do Skype. No problem with Skype. There's 2 other things it could do. It said it could stream. Well, I got to step number 2 was to capture. Never did get any audio captured with it. Didn't know what was wrong with it. The first time I captured a 720 file. Then I went to try to capture a 1080. The box pops up and says, your computer's not quite fast enough. I said, make it so. Let's see what happens. And I found out. Fortunately, I had a clone. Fortunately, I'd used Macrium Reflect. I monkeyed with the drive for a little while, then I finally realized it was just easier to clone. In fact, one file that the program had created, I must have spent 4 hours copying that file over. I had the clone redone in, I think, maybe 20 minutes. So it was kind of ironic. But that was on the APU machine. So needless to say, on an APU machine using that device, that it'll do 3 things, and I'm hoping to tell you about it more next week, and I'll have one up here to show you. Skype was easy. That doesn't take anything. But when you install the software, and it's the same software we're using with the Elgato we're using now, which is an HD60, the same software. When that software is installed on an APU computer, not happy with the results. And out of 3 computers I was trying the device on, I finally determined that the device was bad. But again, this cloning, imaging, or backup, do it. It's something you got to do. I want to talk some more about networking as we get into this, and Frank Dannenbaum is not here. You remember the last time when we were moving equipment from Fairhaven over to Chapelwood, when we were leaving out, I said, they're getting a new internet connection, and it looks like some kind of fiber. Well, it wasn't AT&T, and it wasn't Verizon like the installer thought. It was actually, and I've got a link up on Builder-Buy. Let's go to talking points if we could. That would be on computer number 3. It's number 10, TACUS Gigabit Fiber Internet. TACUS has fiber coming down the Katy Freeway, and I think, I haven't had a chance to verify it, but I think that's what they've got. So just like here at Chapelwood, where they have Comcast and AT&T, this is the only place I know that has AT&T fiber, which is kind of strange. They now have Comcast and this fiber, which is TACUS. So they've got the possibility for gigabit internet. And what's interesting is if anybody's interested in this kind of bandwidth, you can go to their site, give the address. Once it tells you yay or nay, we're not there, they will go so far as to tell you how many people they need to request internet in your neighborhood to bring it forth. Now, I checked my neighborhood and it said only 3 people have requested it. That ain't gonna work. But it said we need a minimum of 100. If we have 100 people in your neighborhood, then we can bring internet to your neighborhood. So I have found me a new cause. I'm gonna go knocking door to door and say, folks, we need internet out here. All I need you to do is go to this website and sign up. Yes, David? Where's the mic? Let's put a mic on him. There you go.
Speaking of AT&T,
Yes.
I got a notice today when I was on my computer.
Wrong computer.
Pardon?
I'm talking to Greg. Let's put him up on camera number 4.
So when I was on my browser, my computer's browser this morning, and went to AT&T site, I got this notification that at the end of October, AT&T would no longer stream to anything except for smartphones, tablets, and wearables.
Really?
And I have not investigated it yet. I went to the page that they suggested you go for more information
When did you get that?
this morning.
Ah.
And
Okay.
And I'm not sure if they're trying to get you to, just clean. If they're just trying to clean the house of UVerse altogether and make everybody go over to whatever it is, discount satellite.
Oh, good point.
But that's slower.
Okay, now that he's gone, give me just a second. I need to put up another computer. Put up another camera. Put up camera number 2 for the moment, if you would. Hello. Camera number 2. Put it on the backup, then slide it over. Thank you. Nope. Because there's nobody there. Okay. Always remember, whoever's running the switch, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's been a month, but bring up whatever shot you want on the backup, and then you can press the space bar and take it live. That'll make it a little bit easier for us. Okay, so David told us what he knows, which is brand new, I haven't seen. I'm going to look into that myself. You said it came through this morning. What time? 10 o'clock? 9 o'clock, okay. What time? Oh, 8 o'clock. No, I didn't see anything. I saw stuff at 8, but I didn't see anything at 9. So I'll check and check back with you next week. I want to go over to, let's go over to computer number 3 for just a minute. I'm going to bring up the browser again. And like I said, here's a link from Frank about TACUS Gigabit Fiber Internet. It's worth looking into if you want it. Now, if you're doing fiber, you're going to have whatever kind of cable modem that they're going to recommend. Okay, primary shot and a backup shot. Let's go camera number 1. Let's put that up online. Right there. Thank you. Okay. You guys are getting lost. That makes me lose my train of thought. Okay, you're going to have whatever kind of cable modem or whatever kind of device they connect with. And the reason I mention this, for those that are on Comcast, how many are on Comcast? Bill's not here today, but he had asked the question, and this comes around periodically, and it was kind of ironic because I told him deja vu. Robert Collier had a problem with his networking gear. He asked the question, and this was a real shoe-in with what Bill had asked, and Bill was asking that same question that he's asked before. Don't know what he did, but I gave him this big, long blah, 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 and all he said was thank you. I have no idea what he did. He was looking for a new cable modem. Now, if you're on Comcast and you need a cable modem, there's DOCSIS 2 in the past, there's DOCSIS 3, and then what's the new DOCSIS, 3.1 or 3.2? Anybody remember? Anyway, the new DOCSIS allows for a faster cable modem. It allows allegedly for speeds of a gigabit. Not available, haven't seen it in Houston, but it's possible. And the reason I mention that, I'm not sure I've got a link up, but I was going to share with you the cable modem that I've told you in the past that I've been using. It's up here, talking point number 14. Most of these links I have up are through Amazon. Now, this is the Netgear CM1000, and it's DOCSIS 3.1. This will allow maximum speeds, like I said, of 1 gigabit per second. When I first hooked the device up, every time Comcast hit it, I had to go back up and repower it. Got kind of annoying. Now, Comcast is able to throttle it, which they did during Hurricane Harvey. They throttled my 200 megabit download to 30 megabit. And just when I was like probably hours away from picking up the phone and saying, hey, what's it going to take to kick it back up? They did. They kicked it back up. They can now recycle my cable modem without me having to repower it. They can repower it and reset it on the fly, which is nice. So they're getting better about what they're doing. But my point is, I told Bill, I put in a cable modem that I hoped, not that it's absolute, but somewhat future-proof by using a DOCSIS 3.1 cable modem that was on the approved list, and that's why I chose that Netgear, and it's been working great, unless Comcast monkeys with it. Comcast and, I don't know who's worth, Comcast or Microsoft monkeying with our computers. But anyway, that's the first point. That's the jumping off point. Once you figure out who you're going to go with, then you're going to figure out what kind of cable modem you're going to go with. That's the one I'm using right now as I progressed up the food chain. But then the next point, you've got your router, and I talked a few weeks ago about the Mikrotik. I did not go into enough detail about that Mikrotik. So I'm going to look at some links here and show you some stuff and kind of expand the horizon, because as we build a network and as we think about cloning in the background, it's kind of like what Mel Babb had. Anything that hooks up to a USB 3 port, that's deplorable. Now, Nick Streeter, you got a USB 3.1C port. And I told about, because I did a stream while we weren't able to meet each week. I wasn't able to do it at 1 o'clock, but I did a stream each Wednesday. And one of the devices I looked at was a little product from Vantech that lets me take a standard SSD, like I use in our SSD recorder, take that device, put it in a little cage, a little plastic sleeve, and had a plug on one end that would also then plug into the USB 3.1 port, USB 3.1C port. Beautiful, loved it. Something worth looking into, and especially if you just want to clone or image, because you want to make a backup, which you can then put the data back. But going through that USB 3.1C port, that's the way it needs to happen. So if we're going to do this kind of stuff through the network, the next step is, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about when I get into the, because this is going to kind of make you think and kind of go, huh, you hadn't thought about this. When you're looking at a router and you're looking at a switch, a router, first of all routers have at least one port, and I've seen a few that have one port, for your switch activity, but most of them have 4-port switch. So you have a router that has a switch. Then you get a separate switch. Okay. You're limited on the bandwidth with a laptop because you have one connection, usually gigabit. On a desktop, you can go beyond that because you can put in an adapter that'll give you 10 gigabit. You can do it through copper or you can do it through fiber, and it's now becoming affordable. So you can put in a network card that will give you, for $100, some great bandwidth from 1 gigabit to 10 gigabit, and you can do it through copper. But you've got to have the router, and I'm going to show you a couple options, and I'll explain why. You've got to have a router or a switch that can support this 10 gigabit. So the most expensive part are those $200 network cards that go in a computer, and I believe they take a PCI Express 4-lane. Then you've got to have either a switch or you've got to have a router that has an, I believe it's called an SFP port, SFP plus. SFP or SPF, I believe it's SFP. So what I want to do first of all is step you through this, and I'm going to show you this Mikrotik router. Now, the one I've shown you up here before, I'm just going to go bring up a new link, and the easiest way to find this is Mikrotik 3011. There's a whole bunch of numbers for it. The best site we'll have for the best pictures is probably going to be on Amazon for the best link, because this is where you'll have to buy it from. Now, to reiterate, remind you guys, I bought an RB 2011, but that's not what Amazon sent me. I bought it based on what I thought I needed for this video switch to run this network equipment. But instead, Amazon sent me the 3011, which I'm thankful and grateful for. But when you look at the specs and what this costs, I think it's worth the money. There are 10, see if I can bring up a, let me zoom in on this without messing up, because I'm on dual screen. This will come in for us. I've got 10 ports. I've also got a USB 3 connection here on the front. and I've got one port that gives me power over Ethernet. So I've got one that connects to the network, which I believe is one. Then I've got all these others, which is 9 ports. See if it'll tell us and show us. No, neither one of those pictures are going to zoom. That shows a universal power supply. But this gives me a switch. Yeah, 10 gigabit. I have 10 gigabit Ethernet ports. Okay, so with 10 gigabit Ethernet ports, like in Joe's situation, Joe needs a switch next to his router, more than 4. Most people need maybe 4, 5, or 6. Right there is a switch built in. So you look at what a router is going to cost, you look at what a switch is going to cost, you put those two together in this device, and to look at this device, it's about the size of a 2x4. About a 2x4 by 19 inches long. So you look at the price for what you get, and that's not bad for 156 bucks. Runs its own operating system. It's a little bit different than other routers. This is made in Latvia, but there's 10 ports. Okay, I'm going to show you another one that I gave as an example. Let me zoom back out. I'll go back over to Build or Buy. There is a cloud router, gigabit switch, that if you need 24 ports, and this is 24 port switch. So I'm going to hold down the control key, click on this link, and just give you some food for thought. Now that is 24 ports. If you need a switch, how much is usually a switch going to cost with 24 ports? It costs more than $177. But that's a router that's got a 24 port switch on it. That's not a bad deal for the money. Now, we're going to take that a step further because these 24 ports also gives us, uses their own operating system. It has one of those, I believe it's called SFP. Let me find it. I don't keep that up here. It's considered a fully manageable layer 3 switch. Oh, this doesn't give you the other specs. It's also got wireless in it. It's got a fan, unfortunately. There's a management port, but I believe that's an SFP port. So what I'm going to do, see back over here, Build or Buy. That was number 13. There's one more switch I want to show you, and the easy way to find it is I'm just going to look, instead of a Mikrotik cloud router, I'm going to look for Mikrotik, and I believe it's SFP Plus. See if I've got my syntax correct. And you can't get put off by, yeah, okay, what I want to find out, I have my syntax correct. Not just an SFP port, but an SFP Plus. Those SFP Plus ports are the key to being able to get one of these to run 10 gigabit. Okay, this is $289, and I'm going to compare this because I just want to, yeah, there's those 2 ports. Let me zoom in on that. Again, they call this a cloud router switch. And that's the 2 ports right there on the right side. It's kind of small. See where it's zoomed in on the far right side of the screen. Okay, let me zoom back out for just a minute. And what I'm looking for, okay, here's what one of these SFP Plus transceivers looks like. That is a Mikrotik SFP Plus transceiver. That little adapter, okay, this is multi-mode. I think this is fiber, but they make them for copper, is 60 bucks. An SFP is about 30, an SFP Plus is 60. And I think, well, hold down the control key, click on it. I think this one is for fiber, but you can get them for copper, and copper is what you'll want. Yeah, fiber, multi-mode. So what we'd have to do is go hunt, and peck. I'm not going to do it right now, but I just want to expand your horizons to think, okay, how much speed and how much bandwidth do I need? This thing is $300. Now, Buffalo makes a 10 gigabit switch It costs a heck of a lot more than this. Whereas I can take this to the next level and do 10 gigabit. Now, when you think about 10 gigabit, I've got 2 ports there to do that with. That means I can talk to 2 different devices through this. All I have to do is plug in that module to get that to work. So I can buy a $300 switch that's got 24 ports with a router, or if I want to get, let me see if I can find the copper, show you the example. It's Buffalo. And I believe it is called a 10 gigabit switch. If it'll come up, that's not it. 16 port, you'll know by the price. There it is. 12 port 10 gigabit switch. That is a 12 port 10 gigabit switch. Okay, now think about this. This is only going to work for desktops. There's not a laptop I'm aware of that you can put an SFP Plus port into. So if you're doing this on a desktop and the card is made by ASUS, they're $100 a piece. How many 10 gigabit connections are you going to have? 1, at least 2, so you can get from one computer to the other. Okay, there's one way to do it for $766. The other way is to do it this way, $300 plus probably about $125 for each of those others. I think this is an easier way to go the upgrade path. What I'm saying is think about your options and look at some of the things that are available. If you're going to be doing some new networking stuff, it's not just about connectivity and gigabit. Be thinking about the future of being able to do 10 gigabit because it's there, it's available, it's affordable. And there's a couple of ways to go at it. One, buying a separate switch, which relates to everybody, or buying something like this that gives you that capability for 24 ports right now for $300, or the other one I showed you that's less expensive. Options. Now, this particular switch is a whole lot bigger than the other one I showed you that's the thickness and size of a 2x4. This is the thickness of a 2x4, but the depth, it's quite a bit deeper. But if you've got the spaceport and the key to it, this has 2 SFP Plus ports on it. And yes, it's rack mountable. But these are some things that we have never talked about before, but we should. Yes, sir. Part of the problem, the reason that bleeds out is because I'm on a dual screen. And let me zoom back out. And the dual screen has an effect on that.
Yeah, I noticed this last week when you were doing the broadcast, whenever you went to that kind of a screen.
Yeah.
We couldn't see anything online except for that, the right side, I guess, is what you were showing.
So it's better I stay like that. If I were on a single monitor display computer, it wouldn't go funky like that. I need a little more time to practice that, but I have to have another computer online to do it, and I'm doing triple duty. This is the Ryzen computer I'm doing this with. The Ryzen I have set up for dual screen, so that because I have 3 keyboards up here I'm looking at, I have to have a 4th keyboard. So it gets, and I'll figure out how to do it, but right now the Ryzen is running 2 displays. Both displays are hooked up, one with the graphics that you see on the screen, the other with this, so I can flip back and forth. Because what I'm looking at most of the time, for those that are interested, is I'm looking at Tidler Live. But for when I need to show you guys something, that's why I bring that up. So I'm doing dual duty. So I appreciate you pointing that out, letting me know about that. And the only way I'm aware of that I can solve it would be go back to single screen. So that means I need to add another computer into the equation. I'll have to work on that. So I can't zoom in on that, but that's the idea. That's a Mikrotik 24-port gigabit switch. So it's a router and a switch. And it's got 2 SFP Plus ports. Now, Robert, did you buy you a, did you finally get you a router? I mean, a switch?
I have not, is this on?
Yes.
I have not bought another switch yet.
Can we bring up camera 4, please?
I'm just coasting, I guess, with the existing one. Over the last week or so, I've had the network go down, And the thing that fixed it the last 2 times was just to reboot the switch that I have. So that makes me think that the switch is the problem. But I understand what you're saying here, and I'm not inclined to go this way just because I don't have the need to do it. I don't really move stuff from computer to computer to the point that it would benefit me at all if I could go faster. So I planning to buy another switch because we find out we're quite limited when the switch does go down. Every computer is by itself. But I wanted to get up here to change the subject, so if you want to continue there, go ahead and do that and then come back to me.
Is anybody else interested in networking? The other option for a switch would be something like a TP-Link 8-port. Can we bring up that computer, please?
How many
Thank you.
ports does he need on the switch?
How many ports did you need on a switch?
Well, I'm currently using 10.
So he ought to have probably 12.
And I have a spare 5 because I was using a 5, and when I added the NAS boxes, I needed more, so I bought a 10, put the 5 on the shelf. So I can actually get up to around 11 with what I have if I need any more. But currently 10 is doing everything I need.
Well, if you got a 10 and a 5,
Maybe I'm saying 10. I
talk
guess
about
it's
14.
8. It's 8. I've got an 8-pole switch right now.
Okay, you got
And
8
a 5.
and a 5. That gives
Yeah, but the 5 I'm not using right now, but I can use it.
Okay,
if I need it.
If you can't use that, that gives you a total of 14.
Well, you have to connect them, so you
Or
lose
8
some
and
each
5,
time you connect.
15, 12.
It comes to 11.
Yeah.
My 8-port is only giving me 7 because one of them is an input.
Oh, okay.
And the 5-port is 5, so it's when you
You get
use
4.
that, when you still got 4, which is a
Yeah.
nice binary number. So you connect them again, you're up to 11. But
Right. Let's take it another step further. When you're looking at a switch, there's managed switches and there's unmanaged switches. Do y'all know the difference and the reason for them? An unmanaged switch is a whole lot less expensive because all it does is stuff in, stuff out. A managed switch allows you to do a lot of things. One, because you can manage it, it has an IP address that you can set. You can set things like the frame rates. For the jumbo frames, that's a big deal. You can also adjust, say you want to have 2 ports to send traffic to a computer. You can set that up, how the traffic flows. So, and you can also segment how those operate. For example, a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, you can do that with this setup because that's a managed switch because the router's built into it when this stuff from Mikrotik, if you're looking at something like that. But if all you want is an unmanaged switch, I've got up here on, let's bring up computer number 3. Computer number 3. Don't ever bring up computer 2. Computer number 3. That's not computer number 3. That's computer number 3. TP-Link 8-port Gigabit Ethernet switch. Unmanaged. 25 bucks. And if you want more ports, usually you can go from an 8, 16, 24. I don't know if you can find a 12. But whenever someone says, I need 3 or 4, I would say give yourself some space and go for 8. If you think you'll need 1 or 2, then 5 will do the job. And there have been times with a 16-port switch I have down here where I didn't have enough ports for stuff we were doing. Most of the time it works. But I'm thinking seriously about changing out the switch and the router that's in this rack because real estate is at a premium. And I can pull those 2 devices out, put 1 device, take the place of it. And so when these questions came in about routers and switches, cable modems, I thought, how relevant. Time to share some of that. So, give you something to think about. Okay, now, does anybody have any more questions about networking? Nobody? Okay. Now, what's your question, Robert?
I've caused myself a whole bunch of troubles in the last week or so, and I think I've resolved them all, except that I lost a disk. And, well, I didn't lose it. It just doesn't work anymore. And the point is that it almost works. And so I'm asking a question from you and from Joe to know if there's any other tool that's still available. We used to do something that would delete like the first 64 sectors or cylinders or something on a disk in order to really clean it off. And there used to be, there used to be a low-level format. But I'm not aware that either of those things still is used today.
Robert, can we get a mic back there on?
So what
Thank you.
the disk that I've lost was my solid state hard drive from Seagate. It's a 2 terabyte drive with some kind of an SSD on the front end, which never been a very big feature because I don't do anything with small files. I'm always using a big file, so the buffer really doesn't play.
Have you tried SpinRite?
No.
Try SpinRite.
Okay, well, the point is that I'd still like to use this 2 terabyte drive, and I can format it, and I can name it, but I can't give it a drive letter. And so I have tried that with ASUS Partition Manager, and I've tried it with the Computer Manage Disk Management from Microsoft. And they'll both do both of those things, that you can partition it, you can format it, you can do all you want until you try to put a drive level on it, and then you cannot register it with the operating system. That's the terminology they use, and so it ends up there looking just like I wanted to with the new partition and the name and so on, but an asterisk instead of a drive letter. So I'm just wondering if anybody knows any way to fix whatever's wrong with that disk.
Off the top of my head, I don't have a solution. Joe, do you?
No, I'm just wondering.
I'd have to think about it.
Well, I'm pretty sure I broke it, and so I was just hoping that it was a fixable thing, like it was on the surface somewhere, and
It
if I could just get
probably
the right
is.
tool.
It probably is. I mean, if you can format it and so on, you should be able to
Assign a drive letter.
assign a drive letter. So the question is, why not? Then that would take some looking into. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't think you're going to throw it away. If you do, throw it up this way.
Well, I've got a dozen dead disks in a stack, and this is just on the top of that stack. It's now number 13.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that you don't want to attempt to try SpinRite?
I'd have to buy another disk. I haven't run out yet.
No, SpinRite,
No,
you have to,
SpinRite will repair
Oh,
that
it's a
disk.
software?
Yeah.
Yes,
Software?
it's
Okay.
free.
No, I will try that.
SpinRite,
Thank you.
you have to buy.
How big a disk are you talking about? 2 terabytes?
2 is with this one,
It's
yes.
going to take you a long time to go through SpinRite.
Well,
A very long time.
Yep.
what
And
does
there-
it do? A
and-
low-level format?
There are only so many times that you can apply SpinRite also. So you don't want to do it like 8 times, or else you're going to lose your info. But try it. Go to GibsonResearch.com.
Okay. They've got instructions, or is his software? Is Gibson software? Okay.
You know, Steve Gibson.
Yeah, I'm aware of the Gibson software. Well, I'll try that because I can just set it and let it run for however many days it wants to run, and if it fixes the disk, well, then that's good. I've got another 2 terabyte disk. If it doesn't, well, then, okay, leave it on the top of the stack.
You have one other option.
Yes?
It's a SATA drive.
Yes, it is.
Bring it up. Give us time to look at it. Either Joe or myself will take a look at it.
All right, I can bring it next week. There's no problem.
Okay, I don't know that I'd have time to look at it during the meeting, but I'll try.
No.
I don't want to spend an hour on it. I'd be happy to do it at home, but not here.
Yeah. Well, I would not expect you to take up meeting time on this because I think there's a high probability of failure, and that doesn't need to be what we do during the day.
If we can solve it in 15 minutes, I'd be happy
Well,
to.
let me know when you're going to do that, because I'll have a tool that we can plug that drive directly into without going through anything else and right into a USB port.
Without assigning a letter, huh? Okay. Well, that's
So you're going to bring it next week?
yes.
So you bring that next week, and you'll have the adapter next week.
Now, we'll see if those 2 work. How much does that cost?
Ed? No, the other.
Well, that's not bad. That's the same price as any other toaster.
$17, $18. Who makes this one? Monoprice. Well, Monoprice.
Well,
makes
if it's
pretty good
just a
stuff.
toaster, I can stick it in my toaster
This
and
is
see if
not
it
a
works.
this is not a toaster.
Okay.
This is a converter. It allows you to take a 3.5, 2.5 inch hard drive, plug it into here, then plug it into any USB port.
Okay.
That one connector gives SATA and power, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Got a power plug on the back of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll bring it next week. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, any more questions about networking? Okay, something else that's kind of network related. Have you guys heard about the new browser?
Which one?
Well, there's a new version of, and I've got that in talking point number 1 on Builder Buy, the Quantum browser, the Firefox Quantum. It's a new version. It's supposed to be out, I believe, October the 15th. It's 2 times faster and 30% less memory. You can download the beta right now and try it. Y'all remember about, oh, it's been a month. Y'all remember a few weeks ago when I was telling you about I was having difficulty with the computer and it just wouldn't do what I want? And I couldn't figure out, I mean, that sucker was down to a crawl. And it got to where I couldn't even do email because everything was just, so I went through and I turned off Microsoft's junk, and that helped a little bit. I turned off the search for the hard drive, that helped a little bit. And I turned off, oh, what's that Microsoft thing that I always shut down? What's it called? Cortana, shut that down, Cortana. That helped, but it didn't solve my problem. My browser was my problem. Couldn't believe it. The computer is now usable again, and it's an FX machine. It should be zipping right along.
Which browser?
Glad you asked that. I was using Netscape, and I was having difficulty, so I went to Chrome.
Netscape?
I was using Netscape.
I didn't know they still existed.
And I'm sorry, I said Netscape.
Firefox.
Firefox, same thing.
Thank you.
I went to Firefox, and I was using Firefox, having difficulty, so I went to Chrome, Google Chrome, and at first it was great, but then it just got to where, and I did a complete scan of my antivirus, took a couple of hours. I ran Macrium, I ran Malwarebytes, and I did Spybot Search and Destroy. And every time I'd clean the machine up from Spybot Search and Destroy, it'd be better for a while, and then it'd just go downhill. But I got to looking, and there was this big glaring thing, something about Google, and I was going, nah, it couldn't be. I thought, well, maybe it's the little browser add-ins that I had, because I had one browser that looks for deals. I uninstalled that. There was another browser add-in from Amazon that compares deals. I uninstalled that. I was looking at resources, and I couldn't get anything from resources about what was running other than every browser window of Chrome spawned another instance in the resource list, and the list was just growing exponentially. So I come across this link, Firefox Quantum. I said, what have I got to lose? I downloaded it, installed it, and all of a sudden my machine came back. I said, wow. Now, this Firefox Quantum is 2 times faster and 30% less memory. It looks like the same old Firefox. And looks like the same executable, but I'm going to hold down the control key and click on this link, and Firefox Quantum New, Fast, and Fierce launches November the 14th. I did the notify me thing, and I said, I'm going to try the beta. What have I got to lose? We used to use Netscape, and it was beta, so that's where I was getting ready to say Netscape from. And so it's all part of the same engine, but that's what I'm using on the machine at home now, and my machine came back. So if anybody's having real sluggish performance on your Windows 10 computer and you're wanting to get in somebody's business because they're in your business, try this and see if it helps your problem. You got nothing to lose. But I had to share that with you. And last week, how many saw the video I did last week? Anybody? One? Oh, thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Folks, I'd appreciate it if you take a look at those. It takes a lot of work to do that. Worth it, labor of love. But I mentioned this deal a while ago to Joe, and I've got a link up on it. It's because it's kind of relevant, as I was mentioning to Nick. Amazon, the Vantech USB 3.1, Generation 2 Type-C for a 2.5-inch SATA hard drive or SSD. It's a storage adapter. It's inexpensive. Anybody, hold down the control key, press enter. Anybody that's got a laptop that has that port on it, that's the way to transfer data. And I'm going to be doing some other stuff on that port, even a cable that'll transfer. Now this thing's back up to 14 bucks. I think I paid 12. When I did the video last week, it was 10. Now it's back up to 14. It changes, whichever way the wind blows. But anyway, for the price, it's not bad. It gives,
what does it exactly do?
it's an adapter. It's an adapter like that's an adapter.
Okay.
Same kind of thing. It fits a 2.5-inch or a 3.5-inch. And you've got a little bitty short cable. My only beef is the pigtail cable is too short. Perfect for a laptop, but on a desktop, it leaves that drive dangling out the back. But it gives you access to that US 3.1C port.
First, you got to have a USB 3.1.
Yes, first you got to have USB 3.1. If you don't have it, this isn't going to do you any good. This will work for Nick Streeter, it'll work for Lou Warren, or Lou. Did you get your power supply cable? So is your laptop working? So you don't know? Well, I hope it's going to work. And where? And Andrew's not here today. I hope he's all right. What'd you say, David? Or Thunderbolt 3. Boy, that's a whole other conversation. But anyway, this is a USB 3.1 Generation 2 transfer rate. So I believe this gives you 10 gigabit.
And Dick, if you want to try a fast browser, try Clicks.
Clicks?
CLIQZ. Yeah.
Good on the smartphone, but how is it on a desktop?
Yeah, I'll show it to you.
Let's go over to Joe's computer, number 1.
Let me find it here.
Thank you. This is Click Z.
This is it. So you just sit there in a cave and you just watch the.
There you go.
It's coming up.
I got a trick question.
Yes.
I've got a lesser machine. I don't have the greatest machine. Can you still buy these little cards you used to put in, like, if you needed a number more USB ports, you put a card in the back? Can you do that for the 3.1 stuff?
Do they still make those cards?
Why not?
You're talking about a card bus card to go on a laptop?
No, no, a card on a desk.
Oh, like a USB 3.1C, yes.
Yeah, they make those
Yes,
cards.
an I.O. card
Okay.
for a desktop, yes. And I'm
Well, that
glad you asked that. That's a good question.
That would solve some problems for a lot of people.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. In fact, give me a second. I looked at one the other day while Joe's bringing up that browser.
Well, the browser's up. I'm just waiting. What do you want to search for something? You want to go to something? Or
But show how fast it is.
okay, go to builderby.org.
That'll work.
Oh. Oh, I can't even spell anymore. That's Brian. Supposed to be very fast, and I haven't started using it yet because I haven't figured out how to put. I want the toolbar up here that tells me, you know, what I can do, and I haven't found that yet, so that's why I haven't gone to it yet. Then I had another browser that was for people who thought everybody was spying on them. It's a very, very tight browser, and it's
What was the name of it?
I can't think of it right now. I got it at home, but it's. I think I still have it on one of my machines. I don't know, but not one of my main machines. But you know, the thing to do is take a look at. Now I got this thing up and running. Take a look at my do I have? The problem is I keep this laptop fairly clean. I mean, as far as a lot of stuff on it, I don't put stuff on it. I'm looking for. No. I'm still using Firefox for that. Firefox. Like I say, see at Firefox, I've got this. Well, not on this one up here. They just updated this one on me. But I've got the toolbar like up here that tells me that I can choose tools and so on and so forth. And I'm waiting to find that before I make clicks the browser of choice.
Yeah, it's funny once you get used to a browser and you get it set up the way you want it, then if you go change it,
Yeah.
they don't always import or export that stuff.
Options.
Everything's not all there. Or some of the features are kind of funky and different. That's what I liked about that new one. Now to answer that question about that card you were looking for, there's a couple. Vantech makes one, StarTech makes one. Nope, this is a USB 3.1, that's not it. I mean USB 3.0. It's a 3.1A, but it's not a 3.1C. Well, StarTech makes one. Yeah, they make them. Let me show you the other one. There's one by Vantech. 2-port USB 3.1, generation 2, in the back of the card. Nope, that's not it either. That's USB 3.1A. Well, they make them. I've seen them. I thought I had one up. Let me do another look. I don't like the search engine on Amazon. It's terrible. Now here's one. This is AC. There we are. There it is. It's A and C. Best I can do for a picture. If I zoom in on it, it gets weird again because it's trying to occupy the dual screen. Good question. This one is right as of today, $26.39. You know how that stuff changes. So under 30 bucks. You know, it's been interesting buying stuff through the holidays through the this Hurricane Harvey mess, getting stuff out of New York. There was a certain point there, FedEx, UPS was 3 sheets to the wind, but I could pull stuff out of California in 3 days, right on time. And I had stuff supposedly coming from Amazon, supposedly coming out of New York, got lost somewhere in some place I never heard of, and it just stayed there. One package.
It's called New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey, that's good. It went back and forth half a dozen times, and then it was frozen in time. So I just finally told them after the extended time, because you know Amazon always says guaranteed. Define guaranteed. Does that mean y'all are gonna do something extra? Well, if all I've gotten out of guaranteed is that if it's not there when we say it will be, if there's been an extra charge for shipping, we'll take care of that. That's about it. So I've been pretty tight holding them to it. But anyway, I mention this because when I couldn't get stuff out of Amazon, it was easier to buy stuff out of B&H, even though it was coming out of New York. But I had better luck getting stuff out of California from Sammy's Camera. But there's a lot of stuff that Sammy's Camera doesn't have. They're only video gear. Whereas, for example, if I want to buy a hard drive, it had to come from B&H. Forget trying to get it through Amazon. So just little things like that. This has been an interesting test of all of us through Hurricane Harvey. So to reiterate, this browser you're looking at is ClickZ. And
C-like-U-Z.
And the one I mentioned was the new Firefox Quantum browser. 2 times faster and 30% less memory. Okay. We've mentioned Macrium Reflect. I've got a link up there so people will know it. And if anybody's interested in capturing, like this device we're using up here now, next week I want to show you some stuff with Skype. There's 4 different versions of Skype, or there have been. If anybody sees a Skype preview, you're SOL. And it doesn't matter what version of Windows you have. According to the latest build, I had one machine that got Skype preview put on it, and it said offline, not available. I had another machine I'd turn around and do the exact same thing on, and it was the regular Skype. And if you get stuck with Skype for Business, Microsoft says because that's so ingrained with that Office 360. Well, I installed Office 2013. They upgraded my Skype and put in Skype for Business. And that was a dog and pony show to get rid of that. But once you get Skype working, I'm going to show you this other device because the device we use right now for capturing is the HD60. It does not work with Skype. It only works for capturing and for streaming like we're doing now. This other device, which is the Elgato, and I'll click on this, bring this up. This thing is just tiny, tiny, tiny. It looks like the size of a memory stick. It is very finicky on what it will take. It will take any HDMI camera, but it will not take any HDMI source. To reiterate, the cam link will take any HDMI camera, but it will not take in any HDMI source. The cam link is supposed to do 3 things. Number 1, it can do Skype, no software required. You plug it in, the driver installs, you're ready to go. But if you want to do the other 2 things it's capable of, which is to stream or to capture, you have to install their software. Once you install their software to use this device, you've got to have a computer fast enough to run it. And I've asked some questions that I've got no response on. It will pass audio, but they're blatantly absent of that information. Of the 3 computers I tried it on, the 3rd computer, audio was coming through, and it was with a Ryzen machine. So a device like this would work on Nick Streeter's machine. Anybody with an i5 should work. An i7 or above, it will work. But I think the one I had was broken. So I've got a new one coming down, and I'm going to show you a little bit about it. With Skype, it's really, really neat. I was going to go through 3 different cameras. One of the Canon Vixia 600s. I was going to use the Canon G40, and then I'll do a Canon XA35. And I'll probably not do it live, but I'll show you a video of it. It's an interesting device for $130, because if this device doesn't do what you want and you jump up to something else that can capture, that can also be done with Skype, the price increases to more than what most people want to spend. But for $130, it's not bad. It's available on Amazon. I tried to buy one on B&H. B&H says it's a new product, it's coming, but they didn't have any.
Here's an interesting thing about what you were talking about.
Yes, Joe.
If I look at,
What you got?
I'm looking at Process Explorer.
Let's go to Joe's computer.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
looking down here how much,
Resources,
yeah,
whether it be
It
CPU
takes-
or memory.
right.
Look at the footprint.
But if you go over to Firefox, it's a little bit larger, about 10% larger.
Now, will ClickZ also let you bring up multiple windows? And if it does it spawn another instance? Yeah, so you got 1, 2, 3, you got 5. You got 5 windows up. Or excuse me, you got 5 tabs up under ClickZ.
I got 3 tabs up.
3 tabs?
Yeah, but I can get all the tabs I want.
But that's my point. When you bring up all these extra tabs and go to something, when you go back to the resources, you still see only one instance of ClickZ.
Right.
With Chrome, it spawns another instance of Chrome every time you bring up another tab. And the resources just grow exponentially. And that's what was killing my machine. So I'm curious about the ClickZ. I'm going to try it. But I'm real satisfied with this new version of Mozilla that's coming out. Excuse me, I keep saying Mozilla. With a new version of Firefox Quantum.
New topic?
If you'd like, if nobody else is interested in that, go right ahead. Let's go over there to where you're at, which would be camera number 4. Swap that over. Thank you.
I've got a question that may be considered asinine, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm just wondering if you know the answer. Have you ever run 2 images of Macrium Reflect at the same time?
I ever run 2 what?
Images, or instances, that's the word. 2 disks at the same time.
I have never had the need to.
Yeah.
I've never tried it, and I've never heard of anybody trying it.
Well, I guess I'll try it and see.
Why?
Well, I have 2 NAS boxes. So I can take this disk in my computer and put it on that box, and I can take this disk on my computer and put it in that box, and one of them takes 4 hours to run, and one of them takes 11 hours to run, and if I can run them in parallel and the whole thing takes 12 hours, I'm ahead, as opposed to running 4 hours and then 11 hours. But if they produce garbage, then this is not a good idea.
Well, let's check it out real quick.
This might not be good. What you're doing is I/O intensive.
Well, I've been looking at that quite a bit. I don't know how much I'm stressing the computer. You can never tell that. But I do get readings of the megabits per second that are going out the network port, because I've got a gadget that tells me that. And at the end of the process, Macrium Reflect will tell you what the average megabits per second was for the last 11 hours. So I run around 300 megabits per second when I'm doing image. And if you, well, okay, that's 300 megabits. That's a good number because a gigabit would be 3 times that.
See, that's a good question, but I don't have the answer to it.
Yeah. So, it's possible that it won't slow it down very much because well, it makes it sound like probably it will. Because if it could run a gigabit, then the network could be what's holding it up. But it doesn't run a gigabit. It runs a third of that. So probably it's the computer itself somewhere in there.
Bus.
It's what's holding it that slow. So if I do it twice, it'll slow down. So I'll be able to tell. I can run it and see. I guess I can report back, especially if it works. But on the other hand, maybe nobody else needs to do that.
I have no idea.
But you're going to tax the bus.
You must have been sitting on that question for quite a while. Okay, back to capture devices. I've got a link up on a Magwell USB capture device for those that are interested. I've also got a link up on a Piffin. Those are the 2 devices you would look at to do all this stuff that this little thing for 130 bucks will do. These are quite a bit more expensive. And Blackmagic Design also has a device, but I wouldn't go for it. Now, how many diabetics do we have in here? How many diabetics do we have in here? 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay, I know there's at least half a dozen here that are going to admit it.
The rest of them are lying.
Yeah, they're not wanting to admit to it. I've got a link up to another device. Engadget had an article out. FDA okays a blood sugar monitor that doesn't need fingerprints. This was also in the news. Did y'all see that? Well,
They've got one that attaches to your skin. You'll talk to your cell phone.
that's what this one does. You've got a device,
I saw that about a year and a half ago.
which I'm leery of, that you stick on your arm that stays there, and it talks to it wirelessly. But I put a link up on it because it was in the news. I thought it was relevant. I wanted to share it with you guys. Kind of like during the month when we weren't here, I found out about a device that works with your smartphone that'll check your blood pressure.
That's true.
There's a link up on BuilderBuy for that. It was in the news. That's why I put it up here. I've also got a link up to some USB-C card readers, a LAN-C remote controller if anybody's interested, and also the new GoPro has been announced. So if anybody's interested in a GoPro, I'd look at the new one before I'd buy an old one. The new GoPro will do 4K. Something to think about. I've got these links up to the routers, to the DOCSIS modem I told you guys about. And for anybody that's interested in laptops, there's a new laptop, actually 2 new laptops out from MSI, a new motherboard from MSI. I've got links up on that. Also for the Threadripper, there's an interesting article, one on Antec, one on Forbes, about the processor, the story behind the processor. And as they said, the processor that beat Intel. Something to think about. And what else have I got? The last one I had up about the 8-port gigabit Ethernet switch that probably is something more the direction that Robert Collier would want to go. If anybody doesn't want to go the other direction, piece it out. That's one way to do it. So, and then Sony's coming out with some new 4K cameras. I got a link up on that. So, has anybody got any questions? Got any more questions? Nothing? Okay, folks, we're going to be here again next week, next Wednesday, 1 to 3. Hopefully we'll start again on time. We're going to be here for this month. We will not have a meeting on the last week of this month, but I'll tell you about it again later and tell you why. But I appreciate everybody coming. I hope you enjoyed it. And for those of you online, stay with us. We do something a little bit different every week. And there'll be some more stuff behind the scenes. For those that didn't get a chance, take a look at our YouTube page. We've got some videos up. Also did a tribute to Milt, since Milt couldn't be with us. Going to miss Milt. He was a neat guy. So thanks for being with us, folks, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Y'all have a great day, and thanks for your support. Thanks for joining us.